tell you why. There is a reason why VCDL rises above all the other groups in Virginia. Because VCDL does not hire some big corporate lobbyists with six-figure salaries to come up here and negotiate with legislators. Virginia Citizens Defense League is powerful and effective because you personally take responsibility for defending your Second Amendment rights. And not only do you come here on a yearly basis and lobby on Lobby Day, but you are active in engaging the legislator on an ongoing basis. And that is why VCDL has been so effective in all the years under the leadership of Philip Van Cleve and Ed Levine and Bruce Jackson and others. Because of what you do in being involved. You should be very proud of yourselves. Now, you have a lot of legislation in the Virginia General Assembly this year that I stand by you on every single one of those pieces of legislation that you will be advocating today. 2 years ago, we had a bill called the Virginia Firearms Freedom Act. It said that if a gun was made and manufactured and sold in Virginia, that the federal government could keep their hands out of our business. There is absolutely no reason that the Commerce Clause should trump the Second Amendment. So, we have today a majority in the House and in the state Senate. There is absolutely no reason why we cannot pass the Virginia Freedom Firearms Act in the Commonwealth of Virginia that keeps the federal government out of our Second Amendment rights and returns the power and the rights back to the Commonwealth of Virginia and the states. That's what we need to fight for. What we do not need is something like Fast and Furious. Let me tell you something that I know you all agree. Mr. Eric Holder needs to be fired and needs to go to court for the crimes that he committed against Americans. And his own employees, that's exactly right. We have to be ever diligent to protect our Second Amendment rights. I promise that I will always do that. And I appreciate the fact that you are doing that today. Do not ever grow weary in protecting our liberty, our basic liberty, that being life, liberty, and property, and the Second Amendment. Thank you so much for what you do.
Wow. You guys ought to see what I see. This is great. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. My name's Bruce Jackson, of course. I'm with the Virginia Citizens Defense League. Go figure. Thank you. That's one in the crowd. No, it's me. Thanks, Ed. So, anyway, we'll be floating these around. Those of you that aren't not familiar with us and don't get our information, we send out emails weekly. And we'll be floating around the clipboard, so just pass them around to people around you. Try to get one, get your email address on it, and we'll get you signed up. Why this is important? A couple of years ago, we were at the General Assembly, and when you've got this many people, our ears are everywhere. Two of the people that work here are walking through the building. One of them turns to the other and says, "What's with all the orange stickers today?" And the other one says, "Oh, that's the VCDL. That's the most powerful lobby in Virginia." All right. Now I know the pay isn't that good, but I'll consider yourself blessed to be paid lobbyists. I'll be floating this around also. Jamie, our last speaker, has some clipboards going around to get her on the ticket. There's one right there. Are there any others floating around that I can point to? All right. Well, see that lady right there and get your name on there so we can get Jamie on the ticket. We like choices in Virginia. All right? Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize that clipboard for Jamie. You're not saying you're supporting her, you're just simply giving her the ability to be one of the competitors. So that's all that is. But it's important to have as much choice as we can get. Okay, next there was a major court decision at the Supreme Court level, DC versus Heller. The next speaker is Dick Heller. So he wanted to say a few words to you. So it was his case that began a change in gun laws in Washington, D.C. And again, some other changes coming in another case dealing at the state level. So I'd like to introduce Dick Heller.
Yes, if you could see what I see up here, it's impressive, and you can be up here. Actually, I just came from one of those State House buildings, and I think there's more people inside than there are outside. So what you see here is probably only 25% of your manpower and woman power today. Well, my name is Dick Heller, and I am, I am also a paid-up member of VCDL, and I'm here to welcome you today to the land of recovering freedom and the home of the brave. I think it's fitting that we meet here today on Dr. King's annual day of recognition. Dr. King was all about freedom, and his activities and lobbying and his demonstrations of peaceful assembly were the leadership elements that gave tacit permission for everyone in America to peacefully stand up for their civil rights and ultimately be judged solely on their character. Now, in the same way, your presence here today in peaceful assembly and to lobby, we become visible to others and the rest of the Virginia, and we basically give them permission to come out of their comfortable and protected shells, knowing that they will not stand alone as an army of one. The more this event gets publicized back home where y'all came from, the more the couch potatoes will know that they can be joining an army to regain their full freedoms, an army of responsible citizens, an army of responsible citizens with character. And by the way, when you get back home, you'll have plenty of them to work with. There are 20 million gun owners in the country not registered to vote. 20 million nationwide. So when they say, "Nah, man, I'm not going to vote, I'm just one vote," tell them, unlike Chicago, where certain corrupted parties believe in the corrupted system of vote early, vote often, especially if you're a dead person, you are part of a freedom army. We call it the VCDL, the NRA, the Students for Concealed Carry on Campus, and the Second Amendment Sisters, and there are many other fine organizations. I know some of you came from hours away to be here. No one paid us to be here to create a phony political image. We didn't get a government handout, and we didn't get any bailouts. Why? Because patriots do it on their own dime. That's why we're patriots. You've gone the extra mile to be here. That's a show of your belief in our constitutional ideals and of your character to make this effort. Now, there was a time when I stood out in the middle of the crowds, like anybody else, not knowing what to do and not knowing anything about any gun organizations. And believe it or not, I found an app for that, APP. A stands for angry. You gotta stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore. I personally got tired of the city council kicking a bunch of smarty pants, kicking my Second Amendment rights down the road like an old tin can. How angry did I get? Personally, well, Heller 1 is in the history books, and Heller 2 is weaving its way up to the Supreme Court. And if we would win everything in Heller 2, there's over a dozen elements, if we would win everything, it would restore about 15 or 16 gun freedoms nationwide. The first P in APP is passion. You have to be passionate about your goals. What do we want? We want freedom. Let's hear it. What do we want?
Freedom!
What do we want?
Freedom!
Are we passionate or what?
Yeah!
Now, we cannot change the attitudes of the socialists. They too have passion. It's just not a passion for freedom.
Passion fruit.
But we can boot them out of office.
Yes.
Remember, as a mere security guard, standing smack dab in the middle of a crowd, I couldn't do much alone. You all have the VCDL. Awesome organization. I'm proud to be a member. And now the Bill of Rights Foundation and the Heller Foundation, hellerfoundation.org, plan to file cases Heller 3 and Heller 4 sometime this month and the next month. And we have Heller 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Heller 10 on the drawing board, and they have names on them, so they are real and forthcoming. How mad am I? I like to just say, they should have just given me my gun, man. They ought to just left my Second Amendment rights alone. The second P is for persistence. 15 years we had to doggedly look for a legal team, a legal solution from scratch, not knowing anything. You all are so far ahead of the game, you can do so much with your team. Seek and ye shall find. The rest is history. And it opened the door for McDonald in Chicago to finally incorporate the Second Amendment in all 50 states. The trend is obvious. There's still a lot to do, but we are winning. Think, 300 years ago, a dozen of 13 colonies recognized the individual gun ownership rights was so important that they put it in their state constitutions. 300 years ago. Awesome. Now we can keep arms in all 50 states. 26 years ago, only one state recognized concealed carry. And now you can keep and bear arms in 49 states. Of course, there's one freedom trampling state remaining. That would be Obama's holdout state of Illinois and the holdout district where he administers. Go figure. 26 years ago, only one state had constitutional concealed carry. Now there's about half a dozen of them, and it's climbing. The rate is climbing. Only 3 years ago, no state would recognize students' rights to carry concealed on campus. At the end of this year, there should be about a half a dozen. You know, that's an organization we really should give special attention to and recognize. If you're with the Students for Concealed Carry on Campus organization, shout out and raise your hand. Yeah! Whoa, okay. Now, everybody here, if you can raise your hands. Everybody should be shaking their hands. Those are passionate people. That is one dynamite organization, just like VCDL. And when you shake their hands, know that you're shaking the hands of the next generation following in your footsteps to be Second Amendment leaders. Yay, students for concealed carry. So, the trend is up in everything having to do with firearms freedom. In closing, what you're doing here today is what starts the turnaround of the freedom recapture process. Leaders are just ordinary people with extraordinary determination, persistence, if you will. There's a couple of more Dick Hellers out here in the crowd somewhere, probably a lot of them over there, and I know Phil Van Cleef